Everyone, welcome in. So I'm going to introduce you to the handsome, talented, modest Chris Blunt, the Director of Plymouth Software. Working with business owners, organisations and software teams, he implements lightweight agile practice and builds continuous improvement and delivery into their software development process. I think Tony wrote this knowing I would only have 3 hours.
Yeah.
This is unnecessarily difficult stuff. I'm going to hand you over to Chris now. Please give him a massive round of applause.
Wow. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. A few months ago now, I was contacted by a friend who was at a crossroads in his career. He'd recently left his very successful job in IT and was now thinking about the next steps he wanted to take. One of the things he was considering was going into business for himself. And knowing that that was the path that I'd taken a few years ago now, he got in touch to ask if I could give him any guidance or advice. Now, I'll be very honest, at first when he got in touch with me, I was a little surprised. After all, I felt like I was just getting started in this whole self-employment thing and working for myself. But in a moment of realisation and mild panic, I realised, or it dawned on me, that I'm fast approaching 10 years of running my own business. So in giving him an answer, I began to think, what would I tell my 10-year younger self with fewer greys as I was just getting started out in business? What were the things that I wish I'd have known then that I pretend to know now? Now, as it turns out, that turned into a rather long conversation, and when I tried to put it in a slide deck, it lasted for about 2 or 3 hours. As I have about 15 to 20 minutes today, and I know we are approaching lunch, what I'm going to want to give you is a somewhat condensed version of some of the most important lessons that I think I've learned over the past nearly 10 years. So with that in mind, what is the first thing I wish I'd have known when I started? And hopefully this will work. Yes, it's this. It's quite simply to build your audience. Your business, when you're running it, needs the biggest audience that you can possibly build. It sounds really, really obvious with hindsight, but when I started out, I'd convinced myself that people would simply find my business. In fact, I very proudly relied on word of mouth marketing being the way that I would find new leads and new clients. I'd put all my effort into building a pixel-perfect website, a lot of effort, naively thinking that people would jump onto Google, somehow know my business name and search for it, land on my website and marvel at what I'd created. Now, I'm sure, looking at your faces, you are a lot less surprised than I was to hear that everybody else was much, much less interested in my business than I was. And this is something we see all of the time in software. People invest huge amounts of time and money and resources into building their perfect app or website, and then they launch it to the sound of crickets or tumbleweeds. And it's because they simply didn't take account of the marketing and they didn't build an audience for their business. So the first lesson I learned, or one of the lessons, is that it's really important to start doing this from day one. Or even, if you can, before you launch your business. Try to build your audience before you launch your business or product. And today there are so many channels available to help us to do this. And you should be using as many of them as you possibly can to build the various levels of awareness for your brand. So online, you've got to be using all of the social media channels that are available to you, the Facebooks, Instagrams, Twitters, and whatever the social media platform of the day is. You should be using these to share information about your business and your industry and to generate engagement for your business in terms of likes, feedback, comments and shares. And I know that Zuby will be doing a lot more about this in his talk. So that's the end of my social media advice. As well as that, you should be publishing articles, posts, tutorials and content onto your websites and blogs. And also cross-posting them onto places like Medium and LinkedIn articles. And where possible, if you're not too camera shy, which I am, try to publish videos that complement your business, that complement the work you're doing, and talk about your experiences onto places like YouTube and nowadays Instagram stories and Facebook stories and all that kind of thing. But as well as your own channels, look for ways to collaborate with other businesses and organisations like FutureSync. So you can share your content on their blogs and websites and their social media channels and gain exposure to their audiences as well. And one of the other things that perhaps is a little controversial, I don't know, is at this stage, remember you're just building awareness for your business. So don't worry too much about targeting and niching down specifically, just try to get as many people into an audience that you can then niche down later on. The platforms that you use online will naturally do some of that work for you anyway. So that's the online stuff, which obviously being in the tech sector we tend to do a lot of, we talk about a lot. But don't forget about the offline world as well. Online marketing is great for your business, but ultimately when it comes to doing business, that's about the relationships that you build with people. So make sure you're using all of the offline marketing channels that you can as well to grow awareness for your brand. Head to meetups and networking events. Get your brand printed on merchandise. And share it as much as you can, just to get some recognition. And attend conferences like you are today, in both the industry of your business, but also the industries of your clients. But above all else, the one thing when it comes to building an audience that I can't recommend enough is quite simply to start building and maintaining a quality email list. Email is still consistently ranked amongst the very best and most effective marketing tools available to us. An email list, a list allows you to grow a qualified audience of people who have given you their permission to talk to them directly about your business, your products and your services. And you can use that list to deliver highly valuable knowledge and information to them to further build those relationships. And so as you begin to grow your audience and grow your list and start to interact with them, start to work with customers, you can gather quality real-world feedback on new ideas, products and services that you might want to launch. The one thing I wish I'd have done sooner was to put a bit of time and effort into actually building and maintaining a quality email list. And the great news today is that there are so many tools available to help us do this. Personally, I use one called ConvertKit, which some of you may or may not have heard of. But there are plenty of others, all for different industries and sectors, such as Drip, Infusionsoft, and MailChimp, and some of which will let you start building your list for free. So yeah, as time goes on, build your audience, grow a list, and start to work with customers, you can begin to really get an understanding of what it is that they truly value. And that brings me on to my second lesson, which is quite simply understanding what it is your clients really value. Understanding this helps you in actually designing the products and services that you deliver. It helps you to position your business in the marketplace and reinforces what it is you actually do for your clients. Understanding what your clients and prospective clients value is, I think, instrumental in how you run your business. It really moves your thinking away from being that of a service provider, a technical skill, to that of a solution provider. But what is value? Well, in simple terms, to me at least, it's the result that the client gets from the service you provide. It's the upside or benefit that we deliver to them. It has nothing to do with the time or effort that we put into our work, or how well structured our code is, and all the specific tools or technologies that we use. Yes, those things are important. In fact, they're essential to providing a great service, but they aren't necessarily of any direct value to your client. Now, I won't deny that for me, in particular, this is a really difficult thing to accept. And if you're a technician at heart, you probably understand why. We've spent a long time, many years, honing our craft, be it coding, writing, music production, videography, or whatever it is that you do that you love. But clients aren't really paying us for that. They're paying us for the results that work delivers. They're paying us for the solution to their business problem. And the best way I've heard this summed up in one sentence is that nobody wakes up on a Monday morning needing a new website. There's always some underlying reason, something that's driven them to that decision. And your job as a solution provider, rather than a service provider, is to figure out what that problem is. Now, unfortunately, when I was starting out, I thought people came to me needing a new website, and they did actually just want a new website. So it's why I spent a lot of time on that pixel perfect website that I built, talking about all the technologies that I'd be using, the languages, the frameworks, plugins, and so on. And what it took me far too long to realise is that when a customer comes to me asking for a new website, they are just asking me to solve a business problem that they've got. But unfortunately, at that stage when they've just come to me, I don't really know what that problem is. So instead, and I didn't take the time to figure it out. So instead, when it happened to me, my developer mind, with all of that technical ideas going around it, would just start jumping straight into the tech. I'd start thinking about the languages that we could use, the plugins, which framework, which CMS I was going to use. I'd start dreaming up the architecture of the software, thinking about the hosting solution, processor speeds and all of that, instead of figuring out what their actual business problem was. And I can't deny that this still happens sometimes. But I have had to train myself to stop thinking like that. 10 minutes, thank you. I've had to learn to see it as a red flag and learn to take a step back at that stage of the process. Because the only way you can figure out what it is a client or prospect truly wants is through conversation. Again, building those relationships with people. So by digging into the details, trying to gain an understanding of the problem or issue that have led them to you in the first place, you can begin to get a feel for what that business problem is. The upside to this approach is that not only will you waste far less time building stuff which is never used and then having that awkward conversation at the end of a project when the bills are due, but you can also start to shift your thinking away from charging for all your time and input, and instead begin to price your work based on the value that you deliver. Now that is a whole other talk in itself, and those of you who do know me know that I will harp on about value pricing for a long, long time. But suffice to say that once you start thinking in terms of delivering value rather than simply delivering technical skill and delivering service, then it can completely change how it is you operate and run your business. And one of the best things I've found it's allowed me to do over the past few years is this, which is quite simply to productize my services. So productizing is a slightly awkward term, I think, but it means to identify those common requirements and traits in the services that we provide and extracting them into essentially a repeatable package or process. Productizing really draws together the previous two lessons. As you build your audience, work with clients, and gain a better understanding of what it is that they truly value, you can begin to design and and offer productized services that speak to their direct needs. You can begin to provide almost off-the-shelf solutions to their problems. So productized service is something you can package up, put a price on, and offer on your website or through your social media channels or marketing platforms, marketing channels. But often in the software industry, and perhaps in other industries as well, we like to tell ourselves that everything we do is bespoke to our clients. In fact, we're very proud to say everything we do is bespoke just for you. But what we're really saying at some level is that we'll be reinventing the wheel every time just for you. And when you look at it that way, there's not always a huge amount of value in it for our clients. But even if your services are extremely bespoke, even if they're customized a lot to every client, there are still going to be common or parts of the process, some aspect of your process that you can extract. There will always be some way that you do, you will always do something the same way or a similar way for every client that comes along. So if you can look at the way you run your business and start to pull out just a few bullet points into a set of instructions, then you have the basis of something that could be productized. And in software, one of the best things I've found to get started with in running my business is the discovery process. So in software, discovery is that initial back and forth that we have with a potential client. They come on the phone or they email us or get in touch via our website. It's the process that you go through to gain an understanding of their needs, determine what's feasible, do maybe a little bit of R&D, a bit of prototyping, think about the solutions that you can offer, and then ultimately write a proposal. And more often than not, we do this for free. We spend hours writing those proposals, thinking up those solutions, and then send it off, fingers crossed, in the hope that the client will come back to us and give us the job. But what we so often fail to realise, and certainly I did and do sometimes, is that there's a huge amount of value being leaked in those initial discussions. Those coffee meetings and phone calls where we're bringing in all of the technical knowledge we've built up over the years and all of the experience we've got to understand our clients' needs and begin to start thinking about different solutions, are often far more valuable to the client than the subsequent hours and days that we spend actually building those solutions. So discovery to me is a great example of a service that we do for virtually every client. It can be standardized and put into a repeatable process, packaged up and offered for a price on our website and marketing channels. So as you go through productizing more and more services and you begin to see new services and new ways of offering value to your client, you can also begin to build up a library of documentation of how your business operates. Not only will this or can this make your service and the service you provide more dependable and give clients more confidence it is in what you're actually going to deliver, but it also allows you to begin delegating tasks either to software or to other people on your team or in partner organisations. And in doing that, starting to identify the repeatable systems and processes that make up your business, you can begin to form in your mind a real business model that hopefully you can then structure and grow. And that really brings me to where I am today. Now, as I said at the start, it all sounds really obvious with hindsight, but the underlying idea is quite simply to start thinking of thinking as a business owner rather than a software developer or a graphic designer or a writer or whatever it is you happen to be. As dull as it sounds when you're starting out, thinking as a business really means thinking about processes and repetition and systems. It means seeing everything from a 10,000 foot point of view rather than being in the trenches. And it's certainly easier said than done for me. In fact, it's incredibly difficult to do when you're in the day-to-day of running your business. It's really easy to get distracted by all the little technical tasks that you have to do rather than focusing on that bigger picture and that strategy for your business. But eventually, and it has taken me nearly 10 years to realise this, you have to start seeing your business as that big collection of repeating processes, systems and actions. Really, a business is one big process that takes something in, adds value and delivers it out the other end. This certainly doesn't sound as glamorous as running a business is made out in the films and TV shows and certainly some Instagram accounts. And certainly when I was starting out, I was far more excited by the idea of using some new tool, some new technology, some new language, than I was about doing the business stuff, the day-to-day. But today, nearly 10 years on, I am starting to find myself almost as excited by the idea of growing the business using these techniques, and by developing my business skills and skills in other areas rather than just focusing on the technical skills. So whether you are just starting out in your business, I don't know if anybody is, or you're thinking about getting started, or you've been running your business for a year or two, then I hope that these few short lessons will go at least some way to helping you on your business journey and making a success and growing your business. And with that, I'll just say thank you very much. Thank you. If you would like to get a list of incredibly useful books and resources, or books and resources that have been incredibly useful to me over the past 10 years, then I have put them on that link, which is bit.ly/bizofsoftware. And I'll also put up some of the other lessons that didn't make it into this short talk. I don't know if there's time for questions. I don't know if I want to take questions.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to Kanye you and direct you
Throw me off
stage.
No worries.
We don't really have time for questions this time, but
I
Chris
will
is going to be around all day.
I will be around all day, so please come and shout at me over lunch. I'm also going to quickly drop in that I am looking to take on a placement or graduate software developer, so if anybody is interested or knows of anybody looking for that type of position, then please come and find me as well.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris.